Hello everyone. Today we're going to be talking about moving on from Aurora hitting Living Legend and what decks we can look at playing next once she's gone. There are three different routes that we can end up taking between combo, go wide oriented, and spike oriented. You can see an example of what we're used to from Aurora with some of the cards that are shown on screen right now, which represent each of these different playstyles. Arc Lightning representing the combo playstyle, Channel Lightning Valley representing a draw-oriented playstyle or a go-wide oriented playstyle, and Burn Up Shock being a spike damage-oriented playstyle. There's also a chance that you just want whatever the cheapest option is, so I'll be covering that as well. The first option we have here is the combo-oriented list of Oscilio. This deck has a lot of similar lightning cards from Aurora's deck list, making it the cheapest option to transition to once Aurora Living Legends, although it is a much more difficult deck to play. If you enjoy setting up a combo and trying to play through a combo turn to burst your opponent down, this is likely the best choice of deck for you. There's also a pretty significant difference with the blocking power of Oscilio because of how many instants the deck runs, so this deck might be a bit difficult for new players to transition into straight away. If you're open to dedicating time to learning a deck and intricate play patterns, then this deck will really reward the practice and understanding of what your individual cards are capable of. This is an example deck list of Oscilio by FABTCG. He has some notes up here in the show notes section if you want to open them and take a look at them for yourself if you're planning on playing the deck list. Some notable cards that we can look at while going through this list are cards that we are pulling over from our competitive Aurora lists. Some examples of cards are Findle Spring Tunic, Lightning Greaves, Gone in a Flash, Channel Lightning Valley, and Current Funnel, which are all cards that we are currently using in competitive Aurora lists. As for the sideboard, Yuto's gone ahead and added matchups to this deck list, so if you are curious of what you should be playing, scroll all the way back up to the top on fabrary and select this button right here and select what matchup you would like to see. If you're wanting to play a deck that threatens additional card draw and long chains of damage, then the Draconic Ninjas might be the best choice for you. Both decks can be built slightly different, playing towards either Mask of Momentum or Mask of the Pouncing Links, which helps to differ the playstyle patterns slightly. Each deck also has ways to be built so that they become less vulnerable to fatigue, since you can set up large turns that are typically difficult to block. The initial cost of entry will be expensive, since a lot of the cards in the Aurora deck are not shared with these decks. But let's take a look at each list so that we can discuss what pieces do transition over and how to approach each deck style. This is Lupine Fiasco's Hunted Fai deck list. I've gone ahead and made some small changes, including adding some important information to the show notes tab. So if you click this, you can actually see some additional information in regards to the maybe section of the deck list. The maybe section of the deck list mostly has alternate cards if you're on a continued budget and you are having a hard time picking up certain cards. Just to get a quick glance view of the Fai deck, we're going to go ahead and just scroll through very quickly and notice that there aren't a lot of cards that are shared, unfortunately, between our Aurora deck list and this Fai deck list. A couple that do stand out, though, are Shelter from the Storm, Enlightened Strike, which is in the sideboard, and Findle Spring Tunic, which is also in the sideboard. I've added a few cards here to the maybe section that are alternate cards that you can substitute in for cards that you maybe don't already have that go into this deck list. Alright, Let's take a look at this all red Syndra deck list. This is actually a personal deck list that I have been working on for quite some time now. I've added in a lot of information to the show notes section. This covers over some flexible sideboard slots and a lot of information on how to potentially build an alternate version of this deck that includes some powerful blues and also includes a few alternate options to some mainboard cards if you don't feel like playing a few of them. I've also gone ahead and added matchups for a defensive aggro deck, a racing aggro deck, and some tall decks, just to give you an idea of how I typically like to sideboard. We're again gonna scroll through and just check out a few of the cards that are in this deck list. Unfortunately, there is not a lot of crossover between Syndra and Aurora, but a few cards that do stand out that you might be familiar with from Aurora's deck list are Ravenous Rabble, Snatch, Shelter from the Storm, and Sink Below. Like I mentioned earlier, this is the maybe section, and it covers over a few cards that I think could potentially be swapped into the deck if you want a little bit of a different playstyle, or you're just looking for some alternate cards to put in if maybe you can't afford a few of the more expensive pieces in the deck. Our last deck option is Spike-Oriented Aggression with Dash.io. Dash.io, or commonly referred to as Dio, is a very strong deck that has access to turns that can feel very similar to Aurora and how powerful they can be, but you do them at the risk of boosting yourself through your deck very quickly. Knowing when to push for a spike turn can be incredibly powerful, especially with boom grenades and turns where you're able to set up a powerful maximum velocity play. Because of this style of play, the deck can sometimes feel a little bit in between both an aggressive list and a combo deck list. Let's go ahead and take a look at Dash.io's deck list. Similar to the other deck lists, I've gone ahead and added some notes to this notes section. It covers over the cards in the maybe section, which are alternate replacements for cards that are a little bit more on the expensive side. So if you're looking for some card replacements, be sure to check out this notes section and also the maybe section at the bottom of the deck list. Scrolling through the deck list, we'll notice that there are not a lot of cards that are shared between this deck list and Aurora's. Unfortunately, with Mechanologist, and especially the Boost Mechanologists, we don't have too many cards that get shared between decks that like to run generics and Mechanologist deck lists. The only notable card here that is shared between the deck lists is Crown of Providence. Thankfully, this card tends to be about half of the deck's total cost, so getting this out of the way really helps with how expensive the deck cost initially is. What's also very nice is Dash.io actually has an Armory deck, so if you're able to pick up the Armory deck, it can be a very good starting point for you to be able to put this deck together and play it at your local armories or at a competitive event. Like I mentioned earlier, there are a handful of cards that I've added to the maybe section if you need some replacements for cards that you're not so sure about putting into the main deck. Thanks again for watching. Hopefully this list has helped you to kind of find a few different options to move on from Aurora, hitting Living Legend, and gives you some good ideas for what to do next going into the next metagame. If you need any of the deck lists that are shown in this video, all of the deck lists shown will be put into the description, so please be sure to check them out, and please be sure to check out the notes on each individual deck list for more information.